All right. Weekly scrap. Number 10. Firehouse Vigilance. Corley Moore here. And this one is called Identity and the Sea of Fog. I almost wanted to call it Row, Row, Row Your Boat. What is your identity? That seemed a little too cute. So, this is it. The Sea of Fog. First off, I want to start off by saying, what department do you work at? Please let me know in the comments if you're watching it live or comments below. If you're catching this recording later, always interested in where you work, where you're from, who's watching. Love interacting with you, so please let me know. Number 10, weekly scrap number 10. I'm excited. I've been working on this one for a while. I hope it makes sense as I go through it. It's identity and the sea of fog. So this is going to be an analogy and just talking and trying to identify who you are in your department, and is it who you want to be, and how can you change that role and that identity. So the analogy we're going to be working with is a rowboat on a flat sea of just fog. You can't see anything but fog in all directions, and there's a rowboat. And the boat is your organization. It is your department. Okay? And there's this vast fog all the way around that you cannot see through, and the fog is the future. It's the unknown. It is challenges that will arise. There's creatures out there in the fog. There's storms out there in the fog. And those are challenges and things that will arise that will challenge you. And some organizations are just zipping through the fog. They've got vision, they've got direction, a clear destination in mind. People believe in where they're going as they zip through the fog. And then there's other organizations, departments, that are just going in circles, completely lost, just lost in the fog, no real direction and don't know where they're going. Now, the main thing I want to talk about today, because there's lots of directions you can go with this analogy, and as I worked on it, lots of examples popped up into my head of different things examples you could make and comparisons you could make. But today, I'm going to talk about the different types of people that are in the boat, their identities, and hopefully you can identify with one of those roles in the boat, and by making that comparison, figure out where you want to be and how you can contribute even more. So the first person I want to talk about in the boat, the most important person in the boat is the captain, the leader, because the captain has to have vision as he points out in the fog and tells everybody in the boat, that's where we're going. No one can see it. It's just a vast sea of fog. And so he has to communicate his vision through his relationships. And he has to convince those people in the boat that that's the direction the boat should be going. He has to get that buy-in if he wants people to be behind him and pursue through that fog. They have to trust him in where he is leading them. And the captain, in this analogy, if we're talking the analogy of the boat is the fire department, then the captain should be your chief. I say should because there are oftentimes leaders who might not necessarily have the rank to go with their leadership roles. And that's usually by abdication by the chief or whoever is in charge. So, but the most important role in the boat is the captain up front, pointing into the fog and saying, this is the direction we should go. And there's a lot more he has to do than just point and say where to go. But for right now, we're talking about the captain. That's his identity as that. If you are the chief, if you are the leader of your department, then that is your identity. Then you are the captain of this ship. And you must have a vision of where you're going through this unknown future, to face these unknown challenges and storms and creatures out there in the fog. And you have to communicate to your crew, to your department, and get their buy-in and their trust. So that's the first role. The next one, and this is a very, very, very broad role. I almost broke this down into lots of different sub-roles, but it's straight up crew members, okay? And these are the guys that are manning the oars on this ship, on this boat, in this sea of fog. The guys on the oars, pulling on those oars and sending the boat in the direction it is going. The guys doing the work, the guys putting their backs to work. And depending on the size of your department, you could have lots of oars, and each oar is like an engine company, a truck company, a crew, a station, however you want to take the analogy. And there are leaders on those oar teams pulling. And if they are in line with the vision of the captain and pulling in the direction he wants to go, then the organization moves in that direction fluidly and smoothly through the fog. And this is the bulk of the people in the boat, the people that do the work, the ones that get things done. You could, and I almost made up a bunch of different analogies to go with this, like the ship's cook and the ship's doctor and things like that. But I really wanted to keep it simple and just say crew members, and then the separate oars were the different stations or crews. With, you know, and we've all been in an organization or seen organizations where there's a station or a crew that just doesn't buy into the vision and direction of the department. They could be troublemakers, complainers. They think the direction that this department is going is the wrong direction, and they want to take it in a different direction. And they're pulling on their oar, but it's not with everybody else, and it causes chaos in the boat. And so, look at your identity in the boat and ask yourself: am I a contributing member of this? My team I'm on, the team, the oar I'm pulling. Am I putting my back into it? Am I giving it my effort to move this organization where it's supposed to be going? Am I on a crew that does not buy into the vision of the leader, that buy into the captain, where the captain is trying to take this ship? Do I trust him? Do I have the buy into that? Or am I actually one of those people that is pulling against him, pulling on my oar, making this organization spin in a circle or cause chaos or cause trouble? And so that's where the team leaders on those oars are so important. The company officers that get those guys bought in and buying into the vision. And then are you a contributing member of your team? And this is where it's so important, those company officers that make their team so effective and not be pulling in the wrong direction. So that's the crew members, and that is the bulk of the people in the boat pulling on those oars and getting things done. And then the next category is the dead weight. And these are the people that sit in the most comfortable place they can find in the boat. And they love to sit back and relax, and they like to point at people who are pulling on those oars and then complain about the direction they're taking the ship. They love to point out faults. They love to point out how the oar could be pulled better if they would just do different things. The dead weights, they will never try to get on an oar and pull the boat if it's all possible. If they do get on an oar, if they're forced to get on an oar, they will put in as little effort as possible. And these are the dead weights. They can be found mocking others in the boat. They will always be mocking other people who are putting in effort. The people that are pulling hard on their oars, they will ask them why they're pulling so hard. The dead weight will always try to find like-minded people who will think like they do, and they cluster together and like to cast their complaints and their derision on the other crews that are trying to move the boat and bought into the leadership's vision. And so they love to question the captain and the direction of the ship, the direction of the boat, and their criticisms are almost always used to justify their apathy. So their criticisms are things like, we don't, the priorities of our department are wrong. We should be doing this, and that's the reason I'm not gonna pitch in. And they always will try to justify what they're doing. And so if you can identify as a deadweight, if you realize that you're just a guy that sits back in the most comfortable position you can find and casts out criticism, I hope that just by being able to say, holy smokes, that's me, that you will take steps to do something to remedy that, to find a way to get on an oar and find a way to contribute and find a way to quiet those complaints and those criticisms. And don't get me wrong, I don't want everybody just bought in and no one questions anything. When everybody thinks the same, then it's very hard to find the best way to do something. There should be questions raised, but questions raised to better, not just to complain and justify apathy. So you've got the captain, you've got the crew members, and then you've got the dead weight. And then finally, even below the dead weight, you have the anchors. And these are worse than dead weight. These are people that are part of the organization that aren't even in the boat. They're tied on, they're hooked on with a chain, they're hooked on with a rope, and they're just dragging in the water behind. Sometimes swimming the opposite direction, trying to pull the boat in the wrong direction. And these are the worst. These are people that sometimes don't even meet the minimum standard of the organization, but for whatever reason are hanging on. And the anchors are the worst thing you can have in your organization. They are worse than deadweight because they are holding the organization back and actively fighting the direction it is going. And so you can go all sorts of directions with the boat analogy and the vast sea of fog the unknown, the future, and how to move through it as an organization. There's lots of directions you can go with the analogy. You can add storms out there. You can add layers to the people and how they can work together and what an OR team is. But I wanted to keep it very simple. The 4 things you could be inside the boat: the leader, the crew member, the deadweight, and the anchor. And identify, which one am I? Am I a contributing member? Could I be a better member on my oar? Could I be more bought into the direction we are going and get this boat moving so we can make changes? And that's the big question I want to ask, is what is your identity inside the boat? So, all that being said, I had a book here I wanted to talk about. No Exceptions Leadership, Jason Hoevelmann. I need to go grab it, actually. Hold on, I'll be right back. This book right here, one of my favorites. This is a gem of a book. It is if you don't know Jason Hoevelmann, the new company officer, the new I gotta get it right. Hold on, me to the front here. I do not want to say the wrong thing. The new fire officer, his pages, you can find him on Facebook under that. If you don't know him, he is amazing. And this book is very small. It is fireman proof. The entries in it are paragraphs long, if that, sentences long, and it is so much knowledge and Firehouse common sense. And you can just flip to the way I like to read this book is just the beginning of a shift. Go in and read one of these short little entries, and it don't matter which one. You can flip to anywhere in the book and read it, and it will apply to you that day. It is an unbelievably good book, written by a great firefighter for firefighters. And it is a firefighter's book, and that is the highest praise that I can give a book. So if you have not read it, it is a very short, very simple read, and I could not recommend it high enough. So that is Weekly Scrap number 10 in a nutshell. Quick analogy about row your boat through that sea of fog, that unknown, uncharted future for your organization, and what is your identity in that boat. So, as always, hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to your questions and comments. And I want to hear what other people think of the roles in the boat and what you can add. And so let me know in comments and things like that. Paco, you will not regret it. I promise you. It is a phenomenal book, and it's one of those books that you'll get multiple copies of, and you'll just hand it out to other people and say, "Hey, check this out," and they will thank you for it. As always. I hope the tone stays silent for you, unless it is burning. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you at the next Weekly Scrap.